Hello and welcome to the Digital Digest, your weekly breakfast of insights, tips and tricks and general information that will help anyone try and move things forward in this digital world of accounting. This show is brought to you both by the Digital Disruptors and SB Digital, which are pushing the boundaries in this digital accountancy space. I'm your host, Ryan Piercy, and I'm lucky enough to be joined by Adam Clark from Attractly, who is a certified Hubspot partner, if I've got that right, as we dive into Hubspot and the tips and tricks and what you can do to get the most out of the system if you are looking to implement it. So I guess, look, Adam, where do we start on this? Give me a bit of an overview of what Hubspot is for anyone that's been living under a rock.
Yeah. HubSpot's basically a CRM system, and it's a place where you can keep, obviously, records of potential leads, customers, newsletter subscribers. It depends on how your business is set up. But it's a way of corralling all that information together, and that could be everything from marketing, sales, and even support. And there's a whole ecosystem that supports all those things. But it's, a one source of truth for the business to see what's going on with a client or a potential client, and allows multiple people within a business to have this access to the same data.
Yeah, and I guess CRM is an incredibly subjective space, right? People have different ideas of what a CRM is or isn't and what you can do with that. My understanding from looking at it is that HubSpot actually covers quite a broad range of functionality. But you've got others in this space, such as Capsule, such as Salesforce. Where do you think HubSpot kind of fits, I guess, in the ecosystem, from how big it is, how many people use it, and I guess, what size of organization should be considering?
No, absolutely. It's a good question. See, Salesforce, I've always found it sort of for the larger end, though I have brought out tools for SMEs, which is competitive now. Generally takes a team. I've worked in businesses with teams of 2, teams of 5, just looking after Salesforce, which seems absolutely crazy, particularly when you're on the smaller end. You just don't have the resources to be able to do that. HubSpot started as a marketing tool. That's how it started. And its first integration was with Salesforce, because that was how it was going to get customers, and that's where the CRM market was at that time. Over time, they created their own and created the CRM as a free CRM for anyone to use. And technically, it's that bit of HubSpot is always free. It's the bits that you can attach to it that you pay for, but with that you get more functionality within the CRM as well. What HubSpot have been very clever about is listening to their customers and going, okay, we've made this marketing tool, right? Wouldn't it be great if actually, rather than syncing with Salesforce, we can have our own CRM so we can look after our clients better? When they did that, they looked at, okay, well, there's sales and marketing should work together. And if we can bring all that data from sales and marketing together, sales and marketing can do a better job of marketing and also selling to clients and potential clients. And then support came in. I've done some great work in the support thing, where that's not traditionally where I've spent time. And there are better support tools out there, I'll be honest, Zendesk and various others. And that's come in as well. And you look at their approach to HubSpot as like an ecosystem. You can actually run your entire business from HubSpot centrally. You'll always have Office and Xero or QuickBooks or whatever.
Yeah, you need
can't
finance,
replace everything,
yeah.
But it as a kind of a hub and a core. My website, for example, Attractly, is built using the HubSpot CMS. It's got HubSpot Chat in there. It's got HubSpot Support. It's got HubSpot Sales and HubSpot Marketing. So all those things together, I've got a complete 360 view of my potential customers and customers, where we are with things, what's going on, if there's any issues, and things like booking meetings for catch up and things like that. Now, I take project stuff out and use Notion personally. But, that's the only bit where there's like make the disconnect, I suppose,
Well,
in that day to day.
I guess from what you're saying is that HubSpot can kind of become, depending on what industry in your operational system, if you're deep diving into it. And that's exactly how I always used to see Salesforce as well. But I think, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, that Salesforce is probably more enterprise, very customizable, similar to like a NetSuite, where you've got HubSpot can work for those SMEs. That's kind of what it was built for, but it's kind of built like an ERP landscape in itself. So you can plug and play different elements as and when you need, as you grow and scale. Does that sound like a good summary of the system?
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, it has sort of started to eat into the enterprise space. It is winning customers away from Salesforce as well, but then Salesforce is looking to win customers in the SME space, because obviously there's a lot more SMEs than enterprise customers. So as they both mature, they're both sort of evolving with their offering. And obviously HubSpot is incredibly expensive on the enterprise end, and as is Salesforce, as is Microsoft Dynamics.
Any tool,
or
any tool when you get to that level.
Yeah. But there's always that want and need from SaaS providers to sell to enterprise, rational or otherwise. Oh, we'll make more money for an enterprise. But obviously, there's so few enterprise customers compared to SME customers. That's where I feel HubSpot plays particularly well.
Yeah, well, as an implementation partner, it's great to have you on to talk through, I guess, what businesses should be considering, the key areas that they should focus on when they're looking to either implement HubSpot or they're already using it. And I guess as I've experienced many times, a CRM system is incredibly subjective. People have a view on what that should look like. So I assume when you engage, what is the first question you're asking a business or a client before you even start a process of considering implementing HubSpot?
Yeah. Generally, what's brought them to the point, and what the drivers are internally. If they're just someone's told them down the pub, you should use HubSpot, that's not a compelling reason to, there's more work to be done there to work out the why and the problems it's going to solve. In 2024, I still work with a lot of people that are currently using spreadsheets or have picked up HubSpot, tried to make it work themselves, made it into a bit of a dustbin fire, and need someone to sort it out and kind of rationalize it so they can move forward with it. So it sounds super basic, and to be honest, it wasn't where I thought I would specialize, but it's where I seem to constantly pick up interesting clients, is people that are quite early in that journey. And it is 2024. We do think everyone's kind of grown up and has a CRM and all their data is like this perfect Garden of Eden.
Surely we all start on Excel for tracking CRMs early on.
Absolutely. Because you don't know what you don't know, and the lift with it's such an easy lift with a spreadsheet to get stuff in a place to sort it out, but then it frays around the edges really, really quickly unless you're incredibly disciplined. And then it's looking at what they use, what their current processes are. Can those processes be mapped over directly, or do we actually need to look at the culture and sort of say, right, okay, who's going to be a blocker or a pain point within this process, because they've always done it the same way and they're going to be really difficult. And that's kind of the people I leave naturally last. And that's not because I'm trying to avoid them. What I want to do is work with the people that can see that change first, make that change happen, show success. And then it's really difficult for whoever's kind of dragging their heels or not wanting to do it. They can actually, it's like an empty house. Some people can see how beautiful it'll look when it's painted and furnished.
When it's finished.
Some people just go,
The visionaries. You need the champions, don't you? You need those that are going to, because any change, any project is painful. Like, you have to go through that process of change. Yeah. But understanding scope and kind of understanding applicability, and then rolling it out with those understanding and how people are going to change, and doing it in stages is always critical. But you flagged earlier about the fact that HubSpot has a free version. Now, I'm always skeptical on anything that is free. So what are the things to be wary of if you are adopting the free version of HubSpot?
Naturally, the feature set is smaller, but it's still pretty good. I mean, you can still put in, I think it's 1 million or 10 million non-marketing contacts.
Wow.
And the difference between marketing contacts and non-marketing contacts is if you've got marketing contacts when you're on a paid tier, you basically get charged by the thousands on the starter plan and then 5,000 increments on the professional plan. But I won't get too into pricing because we'll be here all day. But on the free version, whether it's you make the website with HubSpot, or you send emails with HubSpot, or you send marketing emails or sales emails, or you have forms on your website, all of those will be branded with powered by HubSpot. So it's clear and obvious that what the tool that you're using. When you go onto the starter plan, those disappear, and you obviously get more features as well. So
they're free advertising, basically, isn't it? You're using like the fact that you are getting something free to advertise a solution and spread, and hence probably why everyone knows the name HubSpot, because so many people use the free version. But I believe then there's tiers above that. So I think you said like starter, professional, and enterprise, or something like that. Yeah. But my understanding from our early chat was that your focus is trying to get the most out of the starter license requirements.
Absolutely.
Is that so? Talk a little bit about how that approach works.
Well, when I engage, obviously we look at what's possible with HubSpot, the free version, just to get us going and just to get things set up. And alongside that, we look at who needs access. Now, on the starter plan, it's currently £18 a month per user per month, or 14 if you pay yearly. So there is always an incentive to pay yearly. Just understand that if you add somebody else on, you will then get charged yearly amounts on top of that. But it will be as a proportion of how long's left of that year.
Got it.
If that makes sense. So you're not just paying for a year.
Yeah, so it's all aligned at the next renewal. Yeah,
exactly. You can also have view-only accounts which are free. Now, this has changed relatively recently. It used to be that you could have a number of free users, and then people within it could have access to the marketing or sales, and you would pay for those bits. But now, on the starter plan, everyone gets access to everything, though you can turn that on and off in the settings. But it's just that default sort of almost quite flat structure. But you can have people who aren't operationally involved but have view access. So you might have directors or whatever, or a consultant who just needs to have view access and not actually change anything. They remain free.
And do you get access to kind of all areas of HubSpot at the starter, but just at a scaled down version, like by kind of volume, or is it that certain functionality is turned off?
So the main areas that you don't get in the starter version that you get in the professional are sequences and workflows. Basically, they are automations for automating different tasks. That said, there is some basic automation if you know where to look within HubSpot on the starter plan, but it's not as easy, it's not as clean. But if you want to, for example, send an sales email to someone and send a reminder email 3 days later, you can do that on the professional plan. You can set that up. It's quite easy to do. On the starter, you have to set yourself a task to then send that email. So what it's doing, obviously, is removing that human manual need to do certain tasks. My approach is obviously sweating the starter plan as much as possible and understanding what those pain points are. Now, I know we'll talk about ecosystem and integrations in a bit, but once you've sweated it, you've got two options. One is to plug other things in. The other one is to upgrade your subscription. And at that point, you can obviously, the things where you're hitting the limits or you've got pain points, and you can focus on them. And it's about focusing on the return on investment from.
So in essence, don't go all out, sign up for a big, the most expensive element, because you kind of want to get used to the system, really kind of get to grips with it before you start building in the automation, because try and do everything at once, you're probably not going to make the most value of that as you kind of bring in the system from day one.
I mean, there's a lot of solutions partners out there, and a lot of them, if you're ready for that, because you're at a scale, will help you with that at speed, but there's costs involved, of course. And there's an implementation cost by HubSpot as well. Depending on how you buy, you can have that removed because you're working with an implementation partner, or you can go on your own, but you still have to pay. You pay one way or the other, basically. So,
always. It's like tax, right? They always get you some way. So then the implementation process, like as I've always discovered, getting the data in the system from wherever you had it before is always a challenge, because you have to make sure it's accurate, or as accurate as it can be. It's always outdated because it's never real time. But there are certain, I guess, benefits inside HubSpot that enable you to only put in certain information, and it will suck information down. You said something to me before about email addresses and URLs. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So one thing I love to do, like my cross to bear, but I love to dig into client data and make sure it's set up correctly, it's all rational, and it's all kind of got the same formatting, and everything's in the places that it needs to be. So people have been running their CRM via a spreadsheet for years. It's going to be interesting. So doing that as an exercise before uploading it to HubSpot is just helps with the hygiene, because the HubSpot is only as good as the data that you put in.
Of course, yeah.
One thing, as long as it's turned on, is if you've got unique URLs, it doesn't work for Gmail and Yahoo. If you've got unique URLs, it will look at that unique URL within the email, and it will create the company and nestle any other contacts from that company together. And the benefits of that is it's got its own database. It will pull through the address. It will pull through the LinkedIn URL, various other things. Revenue is always a bit of a dodgy one. I never quite trust that, I'll be honest, but it just gives you an indication.
I never trust that either.
The amount of billion-dollar companies I've seen in HubSpot, I don't think there's as many as that, but but that's everything else seems to be pretty kind of nailed on in that regard. Yeah. So that's really useful. And they've actually bought a company called Clearbit. Clearbit is about providing even more information than they do already. And what's really beneficial about that is it removes the need for fields on a form. So you don't need to ask someone if they're a bookkeeper or an accountant, for example, or an architect or a marketing agency. It brings that information through automatically. That's something else that will happen in the company as well. It will also tell you what industry it's in. So again, what you put in a form doesn't necessarily need to be added.
And I guess that's a really important. That's a really important and helpful thing where you're setting up HubSpot, is to understand what can be, auto-filled by HubSpot itself. So you can focus on putting the right information in rather than trying to complete an entire spreadsheet. Focus on the bits that are critical, and then the system can do it itself. And that's where the benefit to a consultant is. But let's I guess at the final point, let's talk about integrations, because I'm aware that HubSpot over time has built up an ecosystem of partners that it connects into, similar to, I guess, the likes of Google, Apple, and even Xero nowadays. But what are the out of the box integrations that you advise that clients always connect into from day one?
Yeah, good question. And obviously you've got Office or Google Workspace, depending on which one. Obviously you want to be able to track emails and interactions with people you're speaking to via email. You've got Google Analytics, you've got Google Ads, you've got Google Meet or Teams, when you're doing meetings. I love the fact, and I operate almost exclusively on meetings I've created in Google and different types of meetings, but it links to my Google Calendar, and it links to my Google Meet, and that just flows through into that. Obviously, it's very similar to Calendly, but there's some differences as well, which I don't have time to go into, but I prefer HubSpot because I use it more often than Calendly, and it's just one less tool to use. But I know people that prefer Calendly, and it is what it is.
Subjective, isn't it?
You've got LinkedIn and Facebook as well. So there's loads of the core ones in there before you even go out into the marketplace.
So start simple, start emails, start social media, and then kind of build out the more complex. And one thing that I'm always been wary when I've been kind of looking at CRM systems is depending on how you want to set it up and what you've already got in place, you can either connect in a tool such as Xero, right, and it can suck in all your contacts from Xero into your CRM, or vice versa, push it the other way. But that can create challenges by putting information that you don't want in either system. So before you connect any integration, I always advise that you look at what is going to be shared and I guess what data you've got in either system before connecting. And if you don't do that, it can create an absolute minefield. You can push a single button, and it just messes up all your data. So always review it, always be sure, and don't let everyone have access to admin rights. That's my advice here. You also mentioned there's a couple of new integrations coming. Like, what should we expect, I guess, in the future?
Yes. So I spoke to someone at HubSpot not so long ago, and the Xero integration, of which there's two. Again, won't go into too much detail on what they actually are, but one's built by HubSpot and the other one's built by Xero. They're quite old now, and some people watching this might remember HubSpot appearing at various accounting shows pre-pandemic, and it was part of that sort of partnership with their integration. So they've decided that it needs a refresh, and obviously Xero's changed a lot, and so has HubSpot. So the integration needs to improve as well. So that's plans for some point this year. Not to say that integration's bad right now, but it definitely could be better, particularly for various use cases. But if anyone's used to Xero Marketplace, for example, they'll feel relatively similar experience within the HubSpot Marketplace. But be very wary of what you integrate. It's quite easy to just go, oh, that sounds good. Oh, that sounds good. Oh, that sounds good. But take a step back, like you said, just have a think about why, what problem are you trying to solve? Is the problem actually something that is training wise or structure wise or knowledge based, rather than yet another tool to try and fix yet another problem in the business? There's probably a couple of steps you need to take before picking that tool and then trying to integrate it.
Definitely, and it's great to dabble in a system to learn it and understand it. I think our advice here is don't dabble with integrations. If you're unsure, speak to someone, because it can create a whole heap of problems. And I think that's a great place to wrap up this week's show. Thank you, Alan, for taking us through HubSpot and some clear things to think about as we're going through. Hopefully this episode provides you all with valuable insights that you can take forward. Please do check out the show notes for links to Digital Disruptors, Attractly, and anything and anyone that we've referenced throughout the show. If you want to ensure you catch future episodes, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel and look out for the release every Thursday morning. Thank you for listening, and I hope to speak to you next week.